In a far away land, just beyond the savannah, was a kingdom called Kabba. The kingdom of Kabba was ruled by a wise and extremely wealthy king, King Tita. King Tita I was well known across the savannah as the richest and wisest king. His wealth could only be rivaled by the biblical King Solomon. King Tita had only one daughter, whom he loved so much that he couldn't bear the thought of her marrying just anyone. Princess Kemi was adored by all. She had a homely and godly character, always seeking to help those in need. On some days, she would gather the children of the servants in the courtyard to tell them stories. Everyone loved Princess Kemi. One day, Princess Kemi approached the king and said, "Father, I would like to get married and start a family of my own, but I do not know what to do." The king replied, "Give me some time to think about it." After she left the palace, the king summoned the chief of security, Chief Balogun. King Tita told Balogun, "Move closer," so he could explain his dilemma to him. "My daughter Kemi wants to marry, and I want her to marry a man of God, someone whose faith cannot be shaken, a brave man of God. Balogun, you will disguise yourself and go to the T-junction. Make sure to carry your gun, your axe, and your machete. Confront anyone who passes by. The man who stands his ground and is willing to die for his faith, no matter the circumstance, will marry my daughter and become king of Kabba after I am gone." Balogun agreed and prepared to carry out the king's orders. At the T-junction, a group of young evangelists passed by. Balogun emerged from his hiding place, pointed his gun at them and said, "God has offended me, and I want to retaliate against anyone who claims to be a man of God." As soon as the young men heard this, seeing all the weapons Balogun had on him, they ran for their lives, shouting, "No, I am not a man of God. I don't even know God." Later, a group of choristers came by, holding their hymn books with them. Balogun repeated his threat, waving his machete loosely. "God has offended me, and I want to retaliate. Who among you is a child of God? Step forward." The choristers threw their hymn books and fled in fright. They all ran away. After some time, a well-built man in a tailored French suit passed by, holding his Bible in one hand and whistling a song. Balogun approached him and asked, "Are you a man of God?" The man replied, "Oh yes, I am." Balogun then brought out his axe and said, "God has offended me, and I want to retaliate against anyone who is a man of God." The preacher began crying, trembling and pleading, "Please, I am not a man of God. I was only sent to lead a church, not to die for something I know nothing about." As Balogun raised his axe, the preacher fled, leaving behind his shoe and Bible. The news of the happenings at the T-junction quickly spread throughout the kingdom. Everyone began avoiding the area. Balogun sat deep in thought. He thought to himself, "I will return to the king and tell him there is no man of God in the entire kingdom." But come to think of it, How can no one defend what they believe in? After all, the Bible says, "Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword?" Just then, a young handsome stranger approached. Balogun emerged again and demanded, "Stop! Who are you?" The young man replied, "My name is Kike. I am a stranger looking for a place to stay." Balogun said, "Well, I don't care who you are, but know this: God has deeply offended me, and I want to retaliate against anyone who is a man of God." Kike became sad and said, "I am sorry to hear this, but I am a child of God, so do to me as it pleases you." Balogun was surprised, but hiding his emotions, he said, Pick among these weapons. Will you die by the gun, or by the machete, or by the axe?" Kike replied, "Anyone you so desire. After all, the Bible says, who or what shall separate us from the love of Christ?" Kike lay on the ground in surrender, closing his eyes as he awaited his fate. He heard Balogun cock the gun, but instead of a gunshot, he felt a hand on his shoulder. "Rise up," Balogun said. "Follow me." Without a word, Kike followed Balogun. He followed Balogun to the palace. In his mind, Kike was quoting his favorite passage, Psalm 23, to calm his nerves. Upon reaching the palace, Balogun prostrated before the king. "O great and wise King Tita, your wisdom has yielded a positive result. This young man, Kike, is not only a man of God, but a true child of God." Upon hearing his name, Kike prostrated before the king. "O great king, may you live forever." King Tita said, "Rise up." The king sent word to all neighboring kingdoms that his only daughter, Princess Kemi, would marry the courageous Kike in 7 days. As the announcement of Princess Kemi's wedding spread across Kabba and the neighboring kingdoms, preparations began in earnest. The palace buzzed with excitement as courtiers and servants decorated the grand halls with gold ornaments and banners, vibrant fabrics, and the finest ornaments the kingdom could offer. Princess Kemi, though initially surprised by her father's decision, was pleased with Kike's courage and faith. She admired his humility and his resolve, qualities she had always desired and prayed for in a partner. While the kingdom celebrated, King Tita summoned Kike for a private audience. "Kike," the king said, "your faith and bravery have proven you worthy to marry my daughter. However," the king continued, "before you take her hand in marriage and ascend the throne to become the future king, I must be certain you possess the wisdom to rule." The king handed Kike a sealed scroll and instructed him to travel to the sacred mountains to seek the counsel of the ancient seer Baba Adisa. The seer would present a challenge to test Kike's wisdom. Without hesitation, Kike agreed, setting off at dawn with only a staff and provisions. The journey to the sacred mountains was treacherous, filled with wild beasts and raging rivers. Along the way, Kike encountered a group of travelers who had been attacked by bandits. Though it delayed him, he helped the wounded, sharing his food and tending to their injuries. Unbeknownst to him, these travelers were agents of Baba Adisa, sent to observe his character. When Kike finally reached the seer's cave, Baba Adisa smiled knowingly. "You have already passed the first test," he said. "But now, you must answer this. What is the greatest virtue a king can possess?" Kike thought deeply before replying. "The greatest virtue is love. Love for a king who love his people, who rule with justice, compassion, and humility, ensuring peace and prosperity for all." The seer nodded approvingly. "You have spoken wisely. Return to Kabba, for you are destined to be a great ruler." Kike returned to Kabba just in time for the grand wedding. The ceremony was a dazzling affair, attended by kings and dignitaries from far and wide. Princess Kemi looked splendid and radiant in her royal attire, and Kike, though still a humble stranger in his heart, carried himself with grace, with the grace of a prince. The entire kingdom rejoiced, celebrating not just their union, but also the values of faith, courage, and wisdom that they both represent. The legacy of King Kike and Queen Kemi, as time passed, was one that would spread throughout the entire kingdom from generation to generation. Kike and Kemi became beloved rulers of Kabba. Together, they established schools, built homes for the poor, and fostered a kingdom where faith and kindness thrived. Their reign was marked by peace and prosperity, and their story became a cherished legend told to inspire future generations. To this day, travelers passing through the land of Kabba stopped at the famous T-junction, where a small monument now stands, and it reads, "Here a man stood for his faith, and his courage changed the fate of the kingdom." So, dear friends, stand for what you believe in. Thank you for listening. If you love the story, please click the subscribe button, like, and share to other friends. Until next time, bye.